name is Amar and I'm part of NetMinion. I have experience on the cloud, load balancer, WAF, and firewall, right? So overall, I have 15-year experience. And I would be your trainer for this Azure cloud. So before starting to Azure, um, Jacob, just can you just give you your intro, and do you have a prior experience or cloud or in any networking technology?
So yeah, my name is Jacob, and I have going to 3 to 4 years experience working with the web application firewall. I've worked with different WAF tools from F5 to Radware to Silverline, Akamai, and so on, Cloudflare. So pretty much I'm more focused on the web application firewall. So that's the experience that I have and where my focus is on. But right now I'm trying to also add the cloud skills to my knowledge. So that is why I'm trying to go into Azure, AWS, and the likes.
That's great. Okay, let me just bring the slide and just talk about this. Okay, so I can consider that you have a basic understanding of cloud, right? And if I need to teach you this Azure cloud, so we should start from scratch. That means from fundamental to the advanced. Okay, so let me just open the slide and let you know. All right, so this is the slide for cloud. So here we are talking about cloud computing. What is a cloud computing? So a cloud computing is pretty straight. This is providing you on-demand delivery of compute, power, database, storage, application, and other IT resources. So when I say cloud computing, so you know that we have a data center, right? And where we have our IT resources, and that users access through them, right? So we have a traditional data center and we have cloud-based data center, right? So in traditional data center, we have that is managed by the customer itself, right? That is not fully managed. But if I talk about the cloud based, when we are choosing a cloud computing, so at that time, if we require, compute resource, databases, storage, or any other application or any other IT resources, this is on-demand delivery. Okay, so if we required, we can just use a self-managed portal, and we can create a virtual machine, we can create databases, we can create storage application that on the on-demanded basis. This is providing simple way to access the server storage database or broad set of the application over the internet. So you can access the resources over the internet itself, right? There are few cloud service platform like Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google Cloud Services, right? Which is providing these kind of resources where you can use their hardware, their application services to provision your web application or other IT services. If I talk about cloud computing model, so there are three types of cloud computing model, which is very famous, which is infrastructure as a services, which is also called IaaS, platform as a services, which is known as a PaaS, and the software as a services. So infrastructure services example is when you just create a virtual machine over the cloud, that can consider as an infrastructure as services, because at that time you are going to use their server storage, network storage, compute storage, compute services over the cloud, right? So when you are purchasing a virtual machine or creating a virtual machine over the cloud, that can consider as an infrastructure as services. If we don't want to purchase infrastructure as a services, we just want to purchase a platform. Okay, on that cases we can go for the application as a services. So example of platform as a services. So example of platform as services is, you know, your Azure web app. So we have Azure web app. If you just want to host any web application, instead of creating, virtual machine, we can just purchase their web app that is providing a platform. Okay, whether we just want to use .NET, PHP, or Tomcat, any application server, and we can use that to provision our web application. So that can consider the platform as a services. Then third, we have a software as a services. This service in this model, everything is managed by the cloud provider only, right? So you can take example of you are working on Akamai, right? So Akamai is providing a software as a services feature. That means if user want to host some services, right, they can that services is fully managed by the cloud provider. Okay, and user just can consume that. So that is a software as a services, where package software, OS application, or server storage, that is fully managed by the service provider. Any question on this?
No question. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, great. So we have a cloud computing. There are different deployment model of cloud computing. We have public cloud, private cloud, community cloud, and hybrid cloud. Public cloud, where everyone can host their services. Private cloud, that is a, that is a fully dedicated for particular organization. Okay, hybrid cloud, that is provided by the, that is providing, public cloud and private cloud both services. And we have community cloud. Community cloud is a combination of cloud computing that is used by the different organization or community, we can say. In Azure cases, okay, in Azure cases, if you want to learn Azure cloud computing, so they have a different program. They have fundamental program. So there you can learn their fundamental services. They have associate program and then expert program. So these are supporting different type of learning path. So for example, Azure fundamental, you can start from Azure 900, right? AZ 900. So then you can go for AZ 103, or you can go for expert mode. Now I would talk about the course content that we are going to cover over here. So we are going to cover fundamental Azure. Okay, we are going to cover virtual machine and storage. So where we will talk about that, what is a virtual machine, what type of virtual machine have in the Azure, and if you want to provision virtual machine, so which virtual machine you should use on what condition. So for example, we have a virtual machine for general computing, we have virtual machine for storage, we have virtual machine for scientific use. So we will talk about that what are the virtual machine we have, and which virtual machine would be suitable for what work. We will talk about the storage as well. Okay, so we will talk about blob storage here. What is blob storage? So we are going to talk about that. We have network storage as well. We will talk about that as well. Then we have Azure networking. Okay, there we are going to talk about Azure network part. So we are going to talk here route table. We are going to talk here, internet gateway, net gateway. We are going to talk about load balancer. We are going to talk about, you know, um, traffic manager. So those things, NSG, Azure firewall, those things we are going to talk about in Azure networking. Then we are going to talk about protection over here, platform protection. So for example, if you want to protect your your Azure resources, so how you can implement firewall, how you can implement WAF, okay, Azure WAF we are going to talk about here. We are going to talk about Azure front door, all these things we are going to talk about, platform protection. Then we are going to talk about secure data and application. So if you want to secure your data and application, so what are the technology you can use that is offered by Azure. And then we are going to talk about manage security and operations. So day-to-day security, what all the day-to-day security things we need to consider. So here we are going to talk about Azure Security Center. Okay, so that's under the managed security operation. And further, we are going to talk about secure identity and access. So we are going to talk about Azure IAM tool. And then we are going to talk about how to deploy or manage Azure compute resources. So here we are going to talk about the compute resources. Another thing we can deploy through using API, CLI, or using GUI. We can do that. Then we are going to talk about monitor and troubleshooting solutions. What all the things we have available for them, monitoring the logs in Azure. And then we are going to talk about the secure Azure solution, how we can deploy how we can use all our things and deploy a secure Azure solutions. Okay, moving to next, we are going to talk about demo. Okay, let me show you demo of Azure, how you can use Azure services. So in the demo, we are going to see how you can use Azure public cloud, and there you can create resources. So just to give a minute. So if you want to log in into Azure and you just want to use Azure services, so for Azure, this is the URL portal.azure.com. Okay, so once you type portal.azure.com, it is going to offer you login. And if your account is already created in Azure, so you would be able to log in there. By default, you would have a limited access. That means you cannot create any resources. So this is the dashboard of Azure. Okay, there you can't create any resources, but it is offering a free trial for Azure, and that is for 1 month, and it is providing $200 credit, free credit, to evaluate Azure product and services. So there are few products that you can evaluate using this free account, right? However, in my account, I do not have a free access. So what I would do, I would use one of the paid account, and that is just I have created for demo purpose only. I have purchased from somewhere. So if you
Can you
want
hear
to,
me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
having issues with my microphone, but I can hear you. Okay. Okay. So you were saying something about so pretty much it's just to go on portal azure.com, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's where all the services are. Okay.
right. So there you can see
So
all the
that's where we're gonna do
services.
all the hands-on. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So yeah, this is portal.azure.com. This is providing, free trial for, 1 month, right? So you can use
Okay.
$200 credit, and you can do the free trial for the Azure services. So for example, we have a different type of services in Azure that you can see all the services from here itself. So if you go to
Okay.
uh, all services, so all services you can see from here itself. See what all services available from the Azure that you can see. They have divided their services in a different category. So for example, they have AI plus machine learning, they have compute analytics, container database, DevOps, general identity integration, a lot of things we have. So I'm going to, since you are part of network, right? So let me show you some network services. So they have the services for public IP, DNS zones, NAT gateway, you know all these services, load balancer. They have express route, peering services, VPN services. All these services belongs to network. Okay, similarly we have a security services. So we can use these services. For example, let's say we require a firewall in Azure. Okay, so we can go and create a firewall. We require application gateway, we can go and create an application gateway, right? We require a load balancer, right? We can go and create load balancer. Okay, so whatever the services we required in Azure, or whatever the services we think that this would be required, we can just go under all services. We can search up for a particular services and we can use it. Okay, so under all services, you would be able to see all these services. So I'm going to take simple service over here in one of the
If
demo
we're trying
account,
to
which
do the under, if we're trying to do WAF, we go under the, okay, that's the WAF. I see the WAF right there under the network security. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Amar, can you hear me?
allow a minute. Okay, I think I'm disconnecting
Can you hear you
again and
now?
again. Yeah,
You
just
have
give me a
internet
minute.
issues?
No, I think
Okay.
there is something wrong with my system. Okay, it would be better now. Please let me know if you can hear me. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible now.
Okay, just a minute. Let me share the screen. Or can you see this?
I can see your screen.
Okay. Yeah. So I was talking about, we have a different type of services. As per our requirement, we can take the services. Okay. So what I would do, I would try to show you a simple services, which is a compute services, and we will create here one of the compute resources, which is a virtual machine. For example, let's say we require a machine where we need to perform a task. We require a server, okay, and where we want to perform some task. So we can go and create a compute resources, which is known as a virtual machine, okay, in Azure. So I would use one of the test account. Just give me a minute. So let me just create this test account. So I have one of the test account. Okay, I have hide over here that test account. And for example, let's say I just want a compute resources, okay, where I just want to create a Windows machine. Okay, so I can click on this create a resource option. Okay, and under compute resources, we can go and create a virtual machine. So just give me a minute. Under compute resources, we can go and create a virtual
I really
machine.
can.
So
Yo,
can you see
can you
somewhere a
can can you hear
virtual
me?
machine over here?
Hello,
Yeah,
can
I
you hear
can
me?
hear you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
can.
was you start what? Yeah, it was lagging.
It's
The
lagging.
network
It's still
was not.
lagging.
Yeah, but I think it's
Let me
fair
just
enough
switch the
now. It's
network.
kind of
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, let me just switch the network. Yeah. Now it's fine.
Yes, better now. So you went to compute, right?
Yeah. So I'm under compute
To get to,
resources,
to
and
get to the
for example,
okay.
yeah.
Can you go back like
So
can you go back one more step? So you just went to compute, then you brought us
yeah,
to this
let
page.
let me just go over here. So we have option to create a resource. I can create a virtual machine from here by going on a create a resource. Okay. So I can click on create a resource, and what resource I just want, I can search over here. Okay. So we can go to compute because virtual machine is part of compute resources. And there I can search whether the virtual machine is available or not. So it's not available under the compute. So what we can do, we have the option for this search option. So under marketplace, we can search anything over here. So if I want to create a virtual machine, I can type virtual machine, this option. So when we type, it would be able to search. So anything which is related to virtual machine, that is going to show here. Okay, so this is the option for creation of virtual machine, and this is showing as a Microsoft. So what is the meaning of this? This virtual machine is a Microsoft native services, right? So when I say Microsoft native services,
Mm-hmm.
that this is offered by the Microsoft itself. We have the things we can, I mean, we have a third party and we have a Microsoft resources. So Microsoft resources is corely managed by Microsoft itself. Okay, so for example, virtual machine would be managed by the Microsoft itself. Microsoft would be responsible for end to end for that particular services. But if we are using
So you
third
mean
party services, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, okay, you're about to go into the next question. If you are using a third party services.
Yeah. So if you are using a third party services, right? For example, let's say you just want a
Mm-hmm.
firewall, Palo Alto firewall. So you can search over here, Palo Alto firewall. So on the Azure itself, if you want to deploy a Palo Alto firewall, right? So you can go and use a third-party services. You want to deploy F5
Okay.
load balancer, F5 big IP edition,
Mm.
for example, you want to deploy. So this is a third-party services. So the
In this
Azure is
case,
a
this is going to be infrastructure as a service because you are trying to build a
right.
virtual machine.
Yeah, this is infrastructure as services, and this infrastructure services, some part of this infrastructure services is managed by the service provider. For example, this Azure is providing what their platform. You can deploy this big IP virtual machine on their platform. But let's say if you require a troubleshoot to these things application, so you need to contact to who? You need to contact to F5 itself, right? So third-party services, Microsoft is not fully responsible. But if you are using their native services, for example, virtual machine, their WAF, okay, Azure Web Application Firewall, instead of using F5 Web Application Firewall, you are going to use I mean, if you are using their native services, then Microsoft would be responsible for that. Yeah. So I'm just going to create a virtual machine over here, and I can show you. So we have two type of services. One is the Microsoft hosted, and the other is a third party. So this virtual machine is a part of Microsoft services. So here it is going to show you this service is provided by whom? Microsoft, and this is providing the brief description about the particular services. So we can click on this virtual machine tab, and there would be option to create. Okay, so we can create this virtual machine. But before creating this virtual machine, we have to have some resource group. Let's say if I am going to click on virtual machine, a create option. So before that, what we should have? We should have a resource group.
Your network was lagging. Okay, but I think I'm getting you though. I understand what you're trying to say. If you're trying to create a virtual machine, we still have to do the networking part, the basics.
Yeah. So if you are trying to create a virtual machine, so we have to create a resource group first. I don't have any resource group, right? So it is asking that what subscription you just want to use. Okay. So here we have a subscription option. Okay. Then it is asking which resource group you want to use. What's a virtual machine name you want to give, on which region you just want to create. Okay, so we have a multiple data center of Azure in a different region. So we have their data center in US, West US, in all over the world. So whatever the suitable region for you, there you can create a virtual machine. So for example, I'm part of India and I just want to create a virtual machine. I would create here into India, uh, India data center. Okay, I can create in a US as well. So whatever the suitable data center is, there you can create a virtual machine. They have the availability option that infrastructure would be available on the redundant location or not. So for example, in US, we have a East US, and within the East US itself, they have a different data center. So if you want, that is known as the availability zone. So their availability options we have. If we select availability zone, that machine would be available to different zone. So that means there would be one copy of the virtual machine in one data center, and virtual machine would be running on a different data center. So for example, if the particular data center gets failed, it would be continued with the another data center. You are not going to lose your virtual machine. Yeah, it would be failover, right? And that would be silent failover. You won't be able to see the failover happens. Okay. Then we have an image. What operating system we want to use in the virtual machine. So we can select from here. So if you want to use Windows 10, you can select Windows 10. Okay. So there are different images we can use over here. The size of virtual machine, the username and password, confirm password, all those things you can define. But I don't have a resource. Sorry, I don't have a resource group right here. So I need to create that. So let's create first um, a resource group. So let me just go here, create a resource on this option. And let's create a resource group first. So when I go to this home tab, when I click on this virtual machine, and then when I click on create Azure virtual machine, okay, this is going to show me the option for creation of virtual machine. When I click on here, create now resource group, so it would asking that what the name of your resource group you want to give. So for example, I'm giving the name. I have purchased this lab from Plural site. So I'm going to create resource group. This is my resource group name. And I can click on OK. Resource group has been created.
So the resource group is like a name, right? Just to identify a solution.
Yeah, resource group, you can say container. Within that container, we can create a multiple things. We can create a virtual machine. We can create a subnet. We can create a, WAF. Everything we can put into that container. Yeah. So it is like that. For example, we just want to create a virtual machine. We just want to create a network security group. We just want to create WAF. Okay. Everything we can put under the resource group. So if I delete resource group, okay, all these things would be deleted. I don't need to delete one by one anything. So that's, we can say that is a container.
Okay.
So now we can type here virtual machine name. So I'm putting the virtual machine name VM lab -win 001. It would be created in the East US. Okay. And availability option I'm leaving as default because this is not showing as a mandatory. Security option I'm leaving as a default. This is not secure defining as a mandatory. But image we have to choose. So what image I'm choosing over here? I'm choosing Windows 2019 data center generation 2. This one I'm taking.
You're trying to choose the operating system that we want to use.
Yeah. So I'm taking this one, 2019 data center 64 generation 2. This one. Okay. So let me use this. And now I would go to the size of the virtual machine. So we have this size option and we can click on all size where we can see the size of the machine is available. So by default, it is selecting that standard size, which is known as standard underscore DS2. And what this size is, it is providing 2 CPU, virtual CPU, 8 GB RAM. And this is monthly charges for this particular virtual machine. So if I would use this virtual machine for a month, I have to pay $137 per month. Okay, so I'm selecting over here all sizes. And I would show you, these are the all sizes we have available. Okay. And when we can choose a particular size over here. Okay. So for example, I would choose DS1 V2. This is my virtual machine. So I can select this particular size and we can click on OK. So how much you can see this particular virtual machine is providing? This virtual machine is providing one virtual core of CPU, 3.45 GB of RAM, and the monthly charge for this one is how much? $91 per month. Okay. Now I'm providing the username and password. This is a mandatory. So username and password I'm putting over here, Azure Lab Admin. Let's say this is a username. And the password which I'm putting over here, this is L234 OMDVER. Sorry, L234 FOMDWER #2. Okay, I'm going to retype to the password L234 FOMWER #2. I can put something else. So let me put the password test @123456789 test @123456789. This is the password I'm putting over here. Now it is asking the select the port, inbound port that I just want to allow. Okay, so I would keep it default and then I would click on next option. So by default for this virtual machine, 3389 port is allowed. Okay, I can access this virtual machine on 3389 port. And now I would click on next. That is a disk option. So it would be choosing the disk by default for this virtual machine. Okay, so you can see it is selecting a premium disk, that is SSD by default for this one. I'm leaving it default and I would click on the next option, which is known as a networking. So let's go to networking, click here and just say next. Under network, here we have option. So it would be asking that if you want to create a virtual network, okay, we can select the virtual network over here, or we can create a new virtual network. So virtual network is nothing, that is a subnet space. So if we just want to create a subnet space, that you can see we can create under the virtual network. So we can plan that for our our networking, which subnet or which network space I just want to use. So let's say I just want to use 10.0.0.0/16. So I can use entire range this. Under this entire VNet, this is called VNet. Under this VNet, we can create a subnets. So we can break this VNet into a small part, and that would be known as a subnet. So for example, 10.1.0.0/24. This is one of the subnet. And we can create 10.2.0.0/24. This is another subnet. So likewise, we can create a different subnets over here. So you can see this is the virtual network. This is already created, one of the virtual network. That virtual network is a VM lab Win001. This is already been created. Okay. So this is one of the VNet that's already created. If for you, a default virtual network would be already created. Under this VNet, you would have a default subnet as well that would be already created. So you can see there is a subnet which is already created under that particular VNet. So I'm not going to create anything. With this virtual machine, there would be public IP get associated. Okay, public IP is what? That is used to access this virtual machine outside Azure. So for example, if you want to access this virtual machine from your home, so you would be accessing that virtual machine using that public IP. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm not doing anything. I would click on this as a next, sorry. I would go to next part, which is management. Okay. I'm not doing anything over here. I would click on next on the monitoring. I would keep option default over here. Under advanced, I would go and then I would create a next, which is a tag. And let's select, click on create, review and create. So it's giving a warning to us that RDP port is open for the internet. That means this machine can be accessed by anyone over the internet. So validation is passed, you can see, and I can click on create now, and this is going to be created. So it is going to take 2 to 3 minutes to create this virtual machine. So you can see deployment is under progress.
Are you going to cancel this one because I know you're going to get charged? Or how is that going to work?
Sorry, what was the question?
I said, well, are you going to cancel this one? Because in order for you not to get charged, they're going to charge you once you provision this.
Yeah, so
once it's
in
been
Azure,
deployed.
Yeah, right. So once it deployed, they would start charging you. Okay. So there are different charges. For example, if you are using this virtual machine, so they would start charging you around $0.23 per hours. Okay. If you are not using this, so they are not going to charge you anything. Okay. But there are other things which would be associated to this virtual machine. If that is being used, for example, storage being used, so they are going to charge for storage. If their public IP is going to be used, they are going to charge for the public IP. Yeah, so they have a different charges. Okay, one is the full charge for the virtual machine. So if you are using this, they are going to charge you for the compute resources and other resources. But let's say you shut down your virtual machine, so they are not going to charge for the virtual machine, but they would charge for other things. For example, storage would be occupied, public IP would be occupied, so they are going to charge for that, and that is very minimal charge. Okay, so you can see the deployment is completed. What Azure does basically, when you click on this deployment, so Azure is going to use a script to create this virtual machine. So what script Azure has been used, you can click here under download and you can see that what script they have used. So I can show you.
Script.
Yeah, they are using a script to create this. This is the script they have used. Okay. So we have seen that how we can create, virtual machine using GUI, but later we will see that we can modify on this script. And let's say we need to create thousands of machines or maybe 10 of the machine. So we don't need to go one by one on all these options. We can just run the script and that is going to create automatically. So this is the script for creation of virtual machine. Later we are going to see that script as well because we don't have a much time. So that's why I'm going to another part. I'm going to show you how you can access your virtual machine. So this deployment is completed. You can go to resources option and there you can see your virtual machine. Sorry, there you can go and see your virtual machine. This is a public IP of your virtual machine. Okay, you can access this virtual machine from your home as well. So let me just provide you this public IP. Can you do one thing? Can you just type MSTSC in your run? This and try to access this virtual machine.
Yeah.
On this public IP.
HTTPS or no need?
No. You just need to go run. Under run, you need to type these things. MSTSC. Under run, you need to type MSTSC. That is a remote desktop connection.
Oh, okay. You want me to remote into it? Okay.
Yeah, just remote into it.
MS. 1 second.
MSTSC. Remote desktop connection, you can also type.
Desktop. Okay.
Let me provide a username password for this. Let me open Notepad. You can remote this. Yes. Yeah. MSTSC. And then type this public IP.
Be 20.232.193.220. Okay. Asking for the password.
Username and password. Let me put the username. Username you can type Azure Lab Admin. That's a username. And the password is test @123456789. Is it working?
Trying to connect.
Yeah. Has it connected?
Yeah.
Let me stop sharing. If you want to share the screen, you can.
mm. I don't think can I share settings?
Yeah, I think you can share.
Okay, yeah, share screen, entire screen. Let me share my entire screen.
Yeah, I can see now.
Are you able to see my screen? Okay.
Yeah, I'm able to see. You can show me the connection, the virtual machine connection.
Do you see the virtual machine connection or no?
No,
On the
I
server
can see the
manager.
entire screen. Entire screen.
Okay. Let me share again. Share.
Yeah. So you are inside the virtual machine, right? You can see everything. You can close this, you know, server manager window. Yeah. So this is your virtual machine, right? So if you need to do something on this particular virtual machine, yes, you can do. So for example, you need to host any website. Okay, you can install the IaaS server over here and you can host the website. You want to deploy any application on this, you can deploy application as well. Okay, so how simple it is. I mean, if you are using cloud computing and if you require anything, for example, you require a virtual machine to create, you don't need to, connect to someone. You just, this is a self-managed. Using self-managed services, you can just go and you can purchase a virtual machine and you can deploy it. And it's not going to take too much time to deploy the virtual a machine. Okay, like in old time, if you required a server, so you need to plan about CPU, memory, data center, okay, and a physical server need some time to deploy that. But since this cloud computing
Yes.
came, you can create anything immediately and you can use it. Okay, can you stop sharing this? I can start the sharing. For example, now I had created a virtual machine, but I do not require this virtual machine now. So I can go and delete this. Okay. So I can stop this. As soon as I would stop the virtual machine, your connection would be disconnected. So this is going to stop. And once it is going to fully stopped, okay, I can go and I can delete this.
Or did you stop it again? Oh, okay. I see it right there. Restart, stop. Okay.
Yeah. There is a restart option. There is a stop option. There is a delete option as well. So it's stopping this virtual machine right now. It's running in this stage. Maybe your connection has been disconnected now to that virtual machine. Once it is going to fully stopped, you would be disconnected. And then I can go and I can delete this. So it's stopped now. You would be disconnected. And I don't require if, so I can go and I can delete it. So I would go to delete option. Okay, so it is asking that what users want to delete, only the virtual machine or the associated component as well. So we have, you know, operating system disk is associated with this virtual machine. We have network interfaces associated with this virtual machine and the public IP address. So I'm going to delete all of them. I would say I read and understand the condition and I just want to apply force delete. So it is going to delete everything that I have created.
And you will not be charged for anything.
No, you will not be charged for anything now. If you are going to delete all these things, it's not going to charge anything.
I think you really get
So
charged every month or so.
I mean, it is charging based on the minutes. Per minute it is going to charge. So if you have used for 3 minutes, they are going to charge for 3 minutes only. And they would send the bill on monthly basis.
Okay. So you get
So they
charged
would,
per minute, but the bill is just
yeah,
sent.
billing would be
Okay,
monthly.
culture.
Yeah,
I just want to.
yeah. Since I'm using a free account, so I won't be having any charge. And not a free account, but this is from somewhere I have purchased the account. But as I mentioned that for your lab, you can use a free account. So I would let you know when you actually come for the lab. So I would let you know that how you can create your free account for a month and how you can do your practices. Okay, so that's all from my side. Hopefully this was informative for you. And if there is any other
Sure.
question, you can ask.
Sure. This is very informative and pretty straightforward. And I believe as we commence the class, I think there are more things to learn from you, and it's sincerely and really appreciate your time. So
Thank you so much.
for example, if we are going to because jobs they require Azure WAF. Does that it could be any type of WAF? Because since we can have F5 WAF or Akamai WAF, all of them pointing on Azure, or we can also use Azure WAF itself, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure about Akamai, whether we have here on this
Mm-hmm.
cloud. Let me just go and search. Earlier it wasn't, but let me search here if they have Akamai. Yeah, I think we have Akamai. We can purchase from the marketplace. Akamai WAF protector. Yeah, we have. Earlier it wasn't. So there you can see in the marketplace, if you go to all services, you can search what all the option you have available. So you can use native WAF, which is Azure one. If I type WAF, so you would be able to see this is from the Azure, this WAF. But we have other as well. We have a Barracuda, we have Akamai, we have Imperva, we have Fortinet. These are the WAF we have. And also, if you type F5, these are the F5
F5,
WAF we
wow.
have.
Oh,
F5
the
we
big
have.
IP is there.
Big IP is
Wow.
there, yeah.
I think AWS should probably have everything. AWS have more WAF solutions.
Yeah, I mean, both are the competitor, both Azure and AWS. Okay. So they have almost all of the things. AWS is a little mature than this one. The reason is AWS is from, long time, okay, in the market. So they have a more
Yeah.
services than Microsoft. But, this Azure is also offering, large range of services. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, sounds good. Nothing else
Great.
for
So
now.